It was the trembling voice of a child that pierced the silence of the dimly lit hallway. A whisper, fragile yet desperate, echoed from behind a half-open door. "Please don't hurt us," she said, her tiny frame curled around her younger brother like a shield too small to cover them both. Her eyes, wide, wet, and brimming with fear, met the shadow of a stranger standing in her home. The man froze. He hadn't expected children. He hadn't expected innocence. His heart, hardened by years of struggle and mistakes, suddenly cracked at the sound of her plea. For a second he remembered his own daughter, the one he hadn't seen in years because of his choices, his failures. And now here he stood, caught between the life he'd built on desperation and the fragile trust of two children who only wanted to feel safe. He raised his hands slowly, not to strike, but to show he carried no weapon. His voice shook as he whispered, "I'm not here to hurt you." The little girl didn't move. Her brother buried his face in her shoulder, clutching the torn sleeve of her dress. The man could see the tiny tremors running through her thin arms, but he also saw courage, an unyielding will to protect someone weaker than herself. Seconds stretched into eternity, and then the sound of tires crunching on gravel outside broke the standoff. The front door swung open. Heavy footsteps echoed through the foyer. A tall figure in a sharp suit, his presence commanding and unmistakable, entered the room with a voice that filled the air like thunder. "Emily, Noah." The little girl's sobs broke free at the sound of her father's voice. She darted across the room, clutching her brother's hand, and ran into the arms of the man who had just returned home. Her father, a well-known millionaire, dropped to his knees without caring about the dust on the floor. He wrapped them tightly, his strong arms trembling as he whispered over and over, "I'm here. You're safe. Daddy's home." The intruder lowered his head, shame washing over him like a flood. He hadn't realized whose home he had stumbled into, a mansion belonging not to a nameless stranger, but to a man whose wealth was whispered about in business circles. Yet in that moment, wealth didn't matter. What mattered was the fierce, protective love of a father, holding his children as if the world had nearly stolen them away. The father's eyes shifted, locking onto the man standing frozen by the door. Anger surged first, hot and sharp, but it was quickly chased by confusion. There was no weapon, no raised hand, no sign of harm done. Only guilt and sorrow etched into the lines of the intruder's face. "Why are you here?" the father demanded, his voice low, protective, edged with fury. The man swallowed hard. Words tumbled out, broken confessions of hunger, homelessness, and desperation. He spoke of losing everything, of sleeping in alleys, of watching his own child disappear from his life because he could no longer provide. He admitted he had come not to hurt, but to take. Food, maybe money, just enough to keep himself alive another day. The father's jaw tightened, his eyes fierce as he looked between the trembling man and his own children, who clung to him as if afraid to let go. For a moment, silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. Then something unexpected happened. The little girl, still nestled in her father's embrace, tugged on his sleeve. Her voice was small but steady now. "Daddy, he didn't hurt us, he was just sad." Those words struck deeper than any accusation could. The father looked again, truly looked, and saw not a threat, but a broken man. He saw the hollowness of hunger, the exhaustion of a life lived on the margins, and the pain of someone who had once known love, but lost it along the way. The air shifted, the tension loosened, and then came a decision that no one in that room could have predicted. The millionaire stood, keeping his children close, and extended his hand toward the stranger. "You made a mistake coming here, but you're leaving with a chance, not chains. If you want to change your life, this is it." The man's breath caught, his eyes widened, disbelief warring with hope. No one had ever offered him kindness when he least deserved it. Yet here was a man of immense power and wealth, choosing mercy over punishment, compassion over condemnation. The little girl peeked from behind her father's arm. her tears drying as a hesitant smile tugged at her lips. For the first time that night, the fear that had paralyzed her melted into something warmer, something like faith in humanity. What happened next would ripple through all their lives. The father not only gave the man food and shelter, but also offered him work, real work, with dignity. He restored to him not just a roof over his head, but a chance to rebuild his soul. And the man who had once been a stranger in the dark found himself walking a new path, guided not by desperation, but by the memory of a child's tearful plea and the mercy of a father who chose kindness when he could have chosen vengeance. From that night forward, the mansion was no longer just a symbol of wealth. It became a beacon of second chances, a place where broken lives could find healing, and where children learned that the world, though sometimes frightening, still had room for compassion, strong enough to change everything.